So, very good afternoon, everyone. I hope I am audible. Can anyone confirm it? Just one second. Okay. So, very good afternoon, everyone. So, today's workshop is on. We are going to start with basics of health economics and outcome research. So, what we are going to cover today is what is HEOR, introduction to HEOR, what is its importance, what are the different types of pharmacoeconomic studies, types of pharmacoeconomic studies, limitations of these studies, advantages, what are the steps if any one of you would like to perform health economics and outcome research studies. So what steps you have to be take, what are the guidelines which you have to be follow, and about the pharmacoeconomic modeling and tree edge software which is widely being used for the pharmacoeconomic studies. And of course, at the end of the sessions we have a MCQ exam. uh, Exam will be of 15 minutes only. There is a 20 MCQ, so you have to be completed within 15 minutes and submit that Google form, so, to get the certificate. So, so starting with the health economics and outcome research, or we are particularly dealing with the pharmacies. So, we are discussing about the pharmacoeconomic studies. So, what are the pharmacoeconomic studies? What are these, and how to do these pharmacoeconomic studies? So, pharmacoeconomic studies is the branch of the health economics. Health economics is the umbrella terms under which there is a pharmacoeconomic studies, and it deals with identifying, measuring, and comparing the cost and consequences of pharmaceutical products and services. So, sometimes when we talk about pharmacoeconomics, so sometimes students say that, sir, it's related to cost analysis, but it's not only with respect to cost analysis. When we talk about pharmacoeconomic studies, we talk about comparison of the cost in terms of its consequences, in terms of its safety, efficacy, quality of life. We are comparing it with that. If you are spending 10 rupees, or 100 rupees on your XYZ medicines, so what benefit you are getting from that? What are the safety profile of these medicines? uh, Whether these medicines are going to increase your quality of life, or how much it's going to increase. So this we have to be considered when we talk about pharmacoeconomic studies. So, if you see the popularity of pharmacoeconomic studies, you just in Google or in PubMed, I just added the name pharmacoeconomic studies. You will find that year by years, pharmacoeconomic studies in the literature, you will find that a number of studies are being published related to pharmacoeconomic studies. There is a significant increase. There is a little bit decrease. This is during the COVID time, where there is a limited access of the data, and then there is a dip, but it's for the 2026. It's not still completed. It will go above, right? So it indicates that how popular these pharmacoeconomic studies are, and there are a number of CROs and companies who are working in the field of pharmacoeconomic studies. So why the question arises? Why these kind of studies are needed? Why there is a need to do the pharmacoeconomic studies? Of course, industry is doing, but apart from industries, these pharmacoeconomic studies results are helpful to to give the recommendation to the policymaker as well. So you can see on your screen there are very important questions with respect to means when we talk about a real scenario. So so you can see that if for example the patient is of last stage cancer patients, and uh, it's in critical situations, it's in the last stage, and physicians or hospitals administrations comes to you and approach to you and said there is a xyz medicines and its cost is too high, and we are also not sure about whether it will work or not work, whether we can take the chance or not to take the chance. So I always believe that if such kind of situation arise, so being Indians, we will always say to the doctors, you start the treatment, we will arrange the money. And this is the real scenarios. People are arranging the monies by by selling their lands, by taking the loans and so on. And I'm just giving you a hypothetical example. And for example, you have arranged the money by taking loans or by doing xyz things, and after giving that medicines that is too much costly, and maybe patients survive for 2 3 days more, not more than that. So ultimately what happens, the patient has been, you also lost the patients, you also get a lot of financial burden as well. So this is where this is the one of the so where pharmacoeconomic studies would help, would give you the if you are spending that much money, so how much chances of survivals and what benefits you will get out of it. Then there is a always, when we talk about with respect to pharmacoeconomic studies, you all knows there are three types of medicines which are available in the market. One is branded, generic branded, and generic. So branded and branded are the those medicines which are there under patent, right? So no other companies can manufacture these medicines because these are under patent protections. These kind of medicines we call branded. And there is other kind of medicine that we call generic branded. These are the medicines whose patents are expired, and there are many companies, generic companies, who are manufacturing generic version of that, and these kind of medicines we call generic branded. And then there is a third category that we call generic are those medicines where no brand is mentioned, and they are available through Jan Aushadhi Kendra. So there are three types of medicine, as I said: generic branded, and branded. So if someone asks you what is the difference between these medicines, so branded are those medicines which are under patent. Branded generic are those medicines whose patent is expired, but multiple companies are making, generic companies are making version of it, and they are giving their own brand. Like Cipla is one of the generic company, right? Sun Pharma is one of the well-known generic companies. There are so many generic companies, and they are making the generic version of XYZ medicines, and they are giving their brands. And that kind of medicine we call generic branded. And there is a third category is generic. These are the medicines which you are getting from the Jan Aushadhi Kendra, and you are not getting any brand on it, right? So why I am telling this, because there are a lot of cost differences. Every one of you knows that there is a lot of cost differences between branded generic, and generic medicines. And we assume that because these companies are providing their bioequivalence data, uh, and we assume these all are equally effective and safe, right? But there is a lot of cost differences. So by doing the pharmacoeconomic studies, you can calculate how much cost saving you can do if you are picking up generic branded drug instead of branded, or generic drugs instead of generic branded or branded drugs. So how much saving you can do for the 1 years or 6 months or during the course of the treatment, how much it will be saved. So these kind of analysis we are also doing in the pharmacoeconomic studies, and that kind of types of pharmacoeconomic studies we call cost minimization studies, where you are calculating the percentage of cost variations. So these are the some of the important questions clinically, which pharmacoeconomic studies help to answer these type of questions. Another thing is the any therapies, the major objective is to treat the patients with safe, effective, as well as the cost effective treatment. Of course, safe, effective there, but if your cost of the medicine is too high, which is not affordable, So sir, that is also means not a means how you will say that it's a economical medicines. So you have to consider that as well. And you I hope everyone of you knows about NELM. What is NELM? Can anyone put in the chat box? NELM. Have you heard about NELM? Anyone can put in the chat box? NELM. I can give you the hint. National. E is E is anyone quickly can put in the chat box. National Essential List of Medicines, right? And if I ask what are the essential medicines, can anyone answer in the chat box quickly? Because these are the things which you have to know if you want to do pharmacoeconomic studies or if you want to become a pharmacoeconomic experts. Anyone? What are the essential medicines? Can anyone put in the chat box? Yeah, FB Club Zero is saying National Essential List of Medicine. Yeah, you are right. FB Club Zero. You are rightly answer about NELM. Now my question is, what are the essential medicines? As from the NELM, it's understood that this is a list, National Essential List of the medicines. Means these are the list of the medicines which are essential. So now next question is, what do you understand by essential medicines? Again, its name indicate essential medicine, the medicines which satisfy the majority of the need of the populations, right? Essential medicines means according to the disease burdens, essential list of the medicines all across the globe can be differ. Do you agree with that? Maybe this particular medicine is in the essential list of the medicine of India, but not in US, not in other country, and vice versa. Why? Because it depends upon the disease burden. So maybe in India there is a lot of cases of infectious disease during the unhygienic condition, for examples. But in US there is a means sanitation is maintained, so diseases related to these is less. So accordingly, the medicines which are required for the management of such kind of disease, they may be not included in the essential list. They have included others, right? So these costs involved to the patient's healthcare system and society, and to provide evidence to the healthcare decision makers, which medicines you have to include in the essential list of the medicines, which medicines you have to be excluded, which medicines you have to be replaced. So who will guide? So these pharmacoeconomic studies will help the policy maker as well to include or to remove the medicines in the essential list of the medicines, right? So that is also one of the things which highlighted the importance of pharmacoeconomic studies. And of course, in countries like India, there is a lot of uh, you know s- uh, 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 much required to do these pharmacoeconomic studies, because we have a limited resources, and most of the illness in particularly in our country India is treated in the private hospitals. And if you do the survey, you will find that only few health insurance coverage is there. So due to these all reasons, you have to be prioritize and optimize the available resources. And how you can do it? By doing these HEOR, health economics outcome research. You can set the priorities and you can optimize the available resources, right? You might heard about a hospital formulary as well, right? Hospital formulary, what is this? Formulary, or we also call NFI, National Formulary of India. Can anyone answer it? What is National Formulary of India, or what are the hospital formulary? Anyone? Meantime, you can put in the chat box. I will check. So sir, so in which medicine you have to include in the national formulary or hospital formularies. So these studies will help individual level depending upon the socio-economic status. Already we have discussed about national essential list of the medicines. So these are first introduced in India in 1996, recently revised in 2022. And again, the purpose is to provide therapeutic benefit, safety with financial optimizations. So these pharmacoeconomic studies will help to do all these things. And of course, for the with respect to pharmaceutical companies, you know that there are a lot of CROs, pharmaceutical companies who are working in the field of HEOR. There are a lot of CROs in the HEOR. Maybe many of you knows about it. So companies would like to see how their drug is going, whether their drug is going to be cost effective in the long runs, or what based on the available evidence, how much benefits they will get out of it. So when we talk about career opportunities, every times our major focus is, okay, if I learn HEOR, or if you want to become an expert in the HEOR, what are the opportunity in the market? So you just do the Google after this session, you will find that there are a lot of CROs. Eversona is there, Paraxel is there, WNS is there, EBM is there, Pharmalex is there, IQVIA is there, Analysis Group is there, Syneos Health is there, big company like GSK, Novartis. There are so many CROs and pharmaceutical companies who are working in the HEOR, health economics and outcome research. You just go to their websites, you will find that they have a a team for HEOR, health economics and outcome research, and the good packages you will get in this field. But problem is, so you should have that particular skill, otherwise industry is not going to hire you. You should have the skill, because to become a health economics experts, you should have a multiple skill. You should have a good knowledge about the computer as well, because you have to do the pharmacoeconomic modeling as well. You should have a knowledge about SLR and meta analysis as well. You should have knowledge about the pharmacoeconomics guidelines as well, regulatory framework across the globes as well, right? So if you don't want to join the industries, and if you want to become a researcher, or if you want to do a PhD in HEOR, so that can also be done. And you can do HEOR research work, and you can publish in a good impact journal, like one of the well-known journal in the field of pharmacoeconomic is Value in Health. You all might heard about that. Value in Health is run by ISPOR, International Society for Pharmacoeconomics and Outcome Research. There are a dedicated journal for the pharmacoeconomics. The Retail and France, one of the journal is expert review of pharmacoeconomics and outcome research. JAMA is also have a separate dedicated page for the pharmacoeconomics. So these New England NEJM also is publishing the articles with respect to pharmacoeconomics, right? So there are a number of Lancet is also doing that. So depending upon your interest, you can pick up, and particularly you can do these analysis, and you can publish in a high impact journal as well, right? So but of course, by targeting these kind of journals, you should have a good knowledge, and good starting from the basics. So important terms with respect to pharmacoeconomics, these are basics of pharmacoeconomics and outcome research. So what terms you should have a clarity in your mind, and you should not forget for your entire life. So many of you might heard about nowadays everyone is talking about RWE, that is a real world evidence. There are three terms, right? So RWD, RWE, RWI. Can anyone differentiate between these three? RWE is the real world evidence, then RWI is real world insight, and RWD is real world data. So what is the difference between these three? You can see on the screen. So real world data, as its name indicate, right? It's not a very hard to remember what is a real world data. So it's a data which is obtained, you are obtaining from the real world. And what is a real world? Real world का मतलब हुआ कि आपका जो नॉर्मल, जो आप घर पे रह रहे हो, दवाई खा रहे हो, जो डाटा जनरेट हो रहा है रियल वर्ल्ड में, एक्चुअल जहाँ भी आप कहीं भी जा रहे हो, खाना खा रहे हो, जो भी अपना आप खा रहे हो, जैसे भी खा रहे हो, देर इज़ नो कंट्रोल्ड इन्वायरमेंट, आप पे कोई रोक टोक नहीं है, आप अपना खा रहे हो, अपनी दवाई खा रहे हो। तो जो डाटा जनरेट हो रहा है उसको हम बोलते हैं रियल वर्ल्ड डाटा, राइट? एविडेंस जनरेटेड फ्रॉम रियल वर्ल्ड क्लिनिकल प्रैक्टिस रादर देन कंट्रोल ट्रायल। अदरवाइज जो डाटा हम क्लिनिकल ट्रायल से जनरेट करते हैं, दैट इज जनरेटेड फ्रॉम द कंट्रोल्ड इन्वायरमेंट। उसमें थोड़ी है कि आप अपनी मर्जी से कुछ भी खा लो, कुछ भी ये कर लो। ड्यूरिंग द क्लिनिकल ट्रायल्स एवरीथिंग इज कंट्रोल्ड, आपकी डाइट कंट्रोल होगी, आपका सब कुछ कंट्रोल है, आप एक कंट्रोल्ड इन्वायरमेंट में हो, आपको फिजिशियंस देख रहा है रेगुलरली, उस मॉनिटरिंग में हो, सब जगह आपका कंट्रोल्ड है। एंड ड्यूरिंग कंट्रोल्ड इन्वायरमेंट जो आपका डाटा जनरेट हो रहा है वो दैट इज क्लिनिकल ट्रायल डाटा। बट व्हेन ड्रग रीच इन द मार्केट यू कैन कंट्रोल द थिंग्स। सो व्हेन ड्रग रीच इन द मार्केट, जब कोई घर पे कोई दवाई खा रहा है तो घर पे अलग अलग सबकी कंडीशंस है, and during that whatever the data is generated, that is the real world data, and that we called RWD. And why it is important, can anyone answer it? क्यों आजकल फार्मास्यूटिकल इंडस्ट्रीज, फार्माको इकोनॉमिक वाले या कोई भी जो भी सेकेंडरी रिसर्च में काम कर रही हैं कंपनीज, एवरीवन इज टॉकिंग अबाउट कि यार रियल वर्ल्ड डाटा इज वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट? व्हाई? एनीवन कैन आंसर इन द चैट बॉक्स? Someone is Daisy Tak is saying list of all medicine used by a hospital and organizations. Yeah, that is the you are talking about formulary, right? RWI is based on previous collection of results. Okay. Now my question to all of you is why real world data is important? क्यों जरूरी है रियल वर्ल्ड डाटा की? क्यों बात कर रहे हो जब क्लिनिकल ट्रायल हम कर ही रहे हैं? तो रियल वर्ल्ड डाटा का क्या, क्यों एवरीवन इज टॉकिंग अबाउट RWD? इज एनीवन आंसरिंग? कोई आंसर कर रहा है? Or otherwise I will tell. Okay, Digi Tak is saying to get genuine data for the research. Yeah, you are saying right. अब मैं आपको एक एग्जांपल देता हूँ। देखो, सपोज आपने कोई क्लिनिकल मतलब कंपनी ने कोई क्लिनिकल ट्रायल किया, राइट? उसने कोई भी XYZ मेडिसिन पे ट्रायल कर लिया, फॉर एग्जांपल एंटी डायबिटिक मेडिसिन पे ट्रायल कर लिया, लाइक SGLT2 इनहिबिटर के ट्रायल हुए होंगे। क्लिनिकल ट्रायल किया उन्होंने, जो पेशेंट डायबिटिक के थे उन पे टेस्टिंग कर ली। कुछ उन्होंने जब फेज 3 में गए तो उन्होंने थोड़ा लूज कर लिया होगा इंक्लूजन क्राइटेरिया, तो थोड़ी बहुत अदर को मॉर्बिड कंडीशन भी ले ली होगी। पर इज इट पॉसिबल टू इंक्लूड ऑल काइंड ऑफ पेशेंट्स? नो। तो जब फॉर एग्जांपल वो मेडिसिन जो क्लिनिकल ट्रायल में टेस्ट हो चुकी है और क्लिनिकल ट्रायल में आपकी टेस्टिंग हुई है डायबिटिक पेशेंट्स पे, और जब दवाई मार्केट में आई तो जो डायबिटीज़ वाला पेशेंट्स है वो मे बी उसको रिमेटॉइड अर्थराइटिस भी है, तो आपने ये कॉम्बिनेशन तो चेक ही नहीं किया क्लिनिकल ट्रायल में। एंड इट्स नॉट पॉसिबल एज वेल कि आप सारे जो पॉसिबल कॉम्बिनेशन हैं वो सारे टेस्टिंग कर सकते हो, इट्स नॉट पॉसिबल। तो अब हाउ ड्रग इज बिहेविंग व्हेन द पेशेंट इज डायबिटिक विद रिमेटॉइड अर्थराइटिस? गेटिंग माय पॉइंट? तो वो जब डाटा जनरेट होगा तो इट्स ए न्यू काइंड ऑफ डाटा। ये डाटा जनरेट हो रहा था, पहले से ही हो रहा था। अब जब लोगों ने सोचा कि यार इतना ये डाटा जनरेट होता है, इस डाटा से कुछ एनालाइज करके वी कैन गेट टू नो अबाउट कि इस कंडीशंस में या पर्टिकुलर पेशेंट्स को फॉर एग्जांपल रीनल फेलियर का है, हेपेटिक फेलियर का है, उसको डोज कम करके आप कर रहे हो, तो उसका डोज कम करने पे उसको कितना इफेक्ट मिल रहा है, कितनी उसकी सेफ्टी मेंटेन हो रही है। सो इट विल प्रोवाइड यू द गाइडेंस टू डू ट्रायल्स। You might heard about pragmatic trial. Anyone heard about this term, pragmatic trial? What are pragmatic clinical trial? Can anyone answer in the chat box? I hope many of you are from PharmD background or that clinical background. Pragmatic trial. What are pragmatic trial? Pragmatic clinical trial. Can anyone answer in the chat box? Yeah, Ilram is saying sport decision making and treatment informations. Yeah. Pragmatic trials. Anyone who has heard about this term, pragmatic clinical trial? किसने सुनी है टर्म pragmatic clinical trials? जिसने सुनी है आंसर इट इन द चैट बॉक्स। इसी से रिलेटेड है, जो हम रियल वर्ल्ड डाटा की बात कर रहे हैं उसी से रिलेटेड है। जो मैंने बोला ना कि रियल वर्ल्ड के इन बेसिस पे यू कैन डू द ट्रायल। जैसे मैंने बात की कि उस दवाई की कम डोज दी कि भाई इसको उतनी सूट नहीं करेगी तो इसको थोड़ा मैं डोज कम कर रहा हूँ, उसको बोला कि तू हाफ गोली उसको दे रहा है, राइट? और वो उस तरह के पेशेंट, द डाटा विच इज गोइंग टू बी जनरेट, इट्स ए रियल वर्ल्ड डाटा, राइट? Yeah, Ilram is saying it's a real world clinical trial. Yeah, something like that. Now there is a concept. Clinical trial doesn't means you have to be admit in the hospitals and you have to stay in the hospital. There are some trials which you can be a part of the trial from your home as well. आप घर से भी ट्रायल में पार्ट कर सकते हो कुछ डिजीज के लिए, कुछ तरह के ट्रायल के लिए, राइट? डेजी तक इज सेइंग हाउ वेल ए ड्रग इज वर्ल्ड इन रियल लाइफ, राइट? सो हैव यू हर्ड अबाउट कि कुछ पेशेंट्स घर पे बैठे हुए हैं और वो घर से ट्रायल का पार्ट है और उनकी मॉनिटरिंग हो रही है, लाइक रियल वर्ल्ड डाटा जो आप वो वियरेबल वॉचेस पहनते हैं, डिजिटल वॉचेस, उसमें आपके वाइटल पैरामीटर रिकॉर्ड हो रहे हैं, राइट? आजकल कुछ मेडिकल डिवाइसेज जब इंजर्ट करते हैं उसमें चिप लग जाती है तो उससे रिकॉर्डिंग होती रहती है और डाटा जो जनरेट हो रहा है, दैट इज द रियल वर्ल्ड डाटा, right? And that is a pragmatic trial. Pragmatic trial means the patients can be part of clinical trial from their home as well. घर से भी वो पार्ट ट्रायल का पार्ट हो सकता है. That is the important. So some diseases that is like lifestyle disorder or such kind of disease, pragmatic trials are very famous. Are you getting my point? सो दैट्स वाई नाउ एवरीवन इज टॉकिंग अबाउट. मैं आपके दिमाग में एक बेसिक कंसेप्ट डालना चाहता हूँ. वो कंसेप्ट ये है, कभी भी आपको कंफ्यूज नहीं होना है. अगर आपसे इंटरव्यू में क्वेश्चन पूछा गया, भाई मुझे बताओ RWD, RWI एंड RWE में डिफरेंस क्या है, तो आपके दिमाग में सबसे पहला आना चाहिए RWD. RWD इज रियल वर्ल्ड डाटा. और रियल वर्ल्ड डाटा क्या हुआ? जो भी डाटा जनरेट हो रहा है रियल वर्ल्ड इन्वायरमेंट से. और रियल वर्ल्ड इन्वायरमेंट क्या हुआ? जो आपके घर से, जहाँ भी आप, जो भी पेशेंट्स दवाई खा रहे हैं, घर से कहीं घूम रहे हैं, कोई कहाँ बस में खा रहा है, कोई कहीं जा रहा है, कोई ट्रैवल कर रहा है, कोई आपका जो भी डाटा so we are talking about RWE, real world evidence, real world data and real world insight. Can anyone confirm it? I am audible or not, or I will share the slides again. Let me share it again. Okay, so Deji is saying how well a drug is working in the real life, right? Yeah, so there are three terms what I am talking about. Real world data. So I hope you can answer it कि real world data क्या होता है. एंड जब आपने रियल वर्ल्ड डाटा इज इन अनस्ट्रक्चर्ड फॉर्मेट, कोई कैसे फॉर्मेट में आ रहा है डाटा, कोई किस फॉर्मेट में आ रहा है, राइट? सो व्हेन यू आर कन्वर्टिंग दिस अनस्ट्रक्चर्ड डाटा इनटू द स्ट्रक्चर्ड फॉर्मेट and to you try to get an insight out of it, that is we called real world insights. Real world insight you are generating from the real world data. So real world data को कलेक्ट करके उसको एनालाइज करके जब आप इंसाइट कोई जनरेट कर रहे हो, दैट इज अ रियल वर्ल्ड इंसाइट, बिकॉज दैट इंसाइट्स आर जनरेटेड बेस्ड ऑन द रियल वर्ल्ड डाटा, राइट? when you are generating a insights, then when you are from multiple sources you are getting these real world data, and then you are generating the insight, and then finally you get the real world evidence. So based on that you are generating the evidence for your medicines, for your intervention, whatever it is, right? So that is the three terms when we talk about HEOR, that is real world data, real world insight and real world evidence. तो तीन टर्म्स हैं. तीन टर्म्स को मैं अगेन एक्सप्लेन कर रहा हूँ. रियल वर्ल्ड डाटा, जो आपका डाटा जनरेट हो रहा है रियल वर्ल्ड क्लिनिकल प्रैक्टिसेस में, रियल वर्ल्ड सिनेरियोस में, और उस डाटा को लेके जब व्हेन यू आर जनरेटिंग ए इनसाइट, दैट इज वी कॉल्ड रियल वर्ल्ड इनसाइट. And when you are generating evidence from these real world insights, that is we called RWE, real world evidence. Then another terms which you might heard about when we talk about pharmacoeconomic studies, PRO. Now companies are talking about PROs. and that be called patient reported outcome. So sometime interviewer will ask you, okay, you are giving the interview for HEOR, and they will ask you what is PRO, and you will think of, oh, PROs, we never heard about it. PRO is simple, it's a patient reported outcomes. So what are the patient reported outcomes? Patient reported outcomes means that are the outcome which are reported directly by the patients without the interpretations by the healthcare professionals, without the interpretations by the doctors. If you see blood glucose level measured by the laboratory, physician assessment of the disease severity, is these both outcomes are PRO or not a PRO? Answer it in the chat box. आप स्लाइड्स पे देख सकते हो, दो आउटकम मैंने लिखी हैं, ब्लड ग्लूकोज लेवल मेजर किया लेबोरेटरी ने या फिजिशियन ने असेस किया डिजीज सीवियरिटी को. सो दीज आर योर PRO और नॉट ए PRO. कैन एनीवन आंसर इट? PRO है या नहीं है? पेशेंट रिपोर्टेड आउटकम्स. इट्स नॉट ए पेशेंट रिपोर्टेड आउटकम. एज ए सेड, अगर फिजिशियन ने असेस किया आपकी डिजीज सीवियरिटी, दैट इज नॉट द PRO. PRO हुई कि पेशेंट्स ने डायरेक्टली रिपोर्ट किया कोई भी चीज़, कोई पेन असेसमेंट्स या कोई डिजीज सीवियरिटी कि मेरे को दर्द हो रहा है या ये हो रहा है, वो डायरेक्ट आउटकम विदाउट द इंटरप्रिटेशन ऑफ द एनी हेल्थ केयर प्रोफेशनल, चाहे नर्स है चाहे फिजिशियंस है, वट एवर, राइट. ईरम इज आस्किंग सिम्टम क्या? सिम्टम फॉर एग्जाम्पल पेन, राइट. अगर पेन असेस फिजिशियन ने करके अगर रिपोर्ट हो रहा है, दैट इज नॉट द PRO. अगर पेशेंट डायरेक्टली पेन रिपोर्ट कर रहा है, दैट इज अ PRO. आर यू गेटिंग माय पॉइंट? Yes, is also an example of PRO. Yes, it's example of PRO. PRO again, what the patient feel and experience about their disease and treatment. अगर आपको पेन हो रही है तो आप कैसा फील कर रहे हो? नहीं तो क्या है, आप डॉक्टर को बता रहे हो, डॉक्टर उसको इंटरप्रेट करके फिर उसको रिपोर्ट कर रहा है. आर गेटिंग माय पॉइंट? तो वो जो मिडल पर्सन है, डॉक्टर है, नर्स है या कोई भी है, वो जब रिपोर्ट कर रहा है तो वो डिफरेंस हो सकता है, राइट. दैट्स वाई एंड इट हैज़ बीन ऑब्जर्व दैट मीन्स आपने बताने में आप सही से बता नहीं पाए, उसको उसने कुछ अलग से इंटरप्रेट किया उस चीज़ को, और इंटरप्रिटेशन अलग हुई तो वो अलग हो गई, राइट. सो दैट्स वाई PRO कि पेशेंट्स, हाउ द पेशेंट इज फीलिंग, what is their experiencing about their disease and treatment, that is be called PRO, patient reported outcomes, right. Another important terms which everyone of you should know if you want to do pharmacoeconomic studies or health economics outcome research, quali and daily. Quali and daily, ये बहुत frequent question है, you will get in your interviews if you are going for a health economics job or pharmacoeconomics, whatever, right. Quali and daily, and you should not be confused between quali and daily. Quali is quality adjusted life year, and daily is disability adjusted life year, and these are the two different terms. Quali means how, means it's a measure of the years lived in a perfect health gain, whereas daily is a measure of years in the perfect health lost. So there is a huge difference between these two, right. Quali talks about perfect health gain, whereas daily talks about perfect health lost, राइट. दीज आर वेरी डिफरेंट टू ईच अदर. यहाँ आप बात करो परफेक्ट हेल्थ गेन की, यहाँ आप बात करो परफेक्ट हेल्थ लॉस्ट की, राइट. सो क्वालिटी एडजस्टेड वन बाय वन, यू शुड अंडरस्टैंड द कंसेप्ट ऑफ क्वाली एंड डेली. So quali is, as I said, and how to calculate it with respect to pharmacoeconomic studies. You have to calculate these quali and daily. So how to do that? So as I said, QALY is quality adjusted life year. So it's a measure the number of additional years a treatment provides for the patients while also weighing the improvement in the quality of life based on the clinical outcome. For the quality of life, you have a standardized scale by which you can measure the quality of life, right? So quality of life are composed of two elements. One is duration of survival and utility associated with specific health state. If you want to calculate QALY, so QALY is equal to year of life, right? Multiply by utility values. Utility values you will get from the tables. So how much year of life multiply by utility values, you will get the value of the query. So is it very hard? So now with the example you can understand it better for the quality adjusted life year. So for example, if a person lives in a perfect health, कोई भी आदमी है जो परफेक्ट हेल्थ में 1 साल के लिए, that person will have a one query. How? 1 year of life, like multiply by utility values. So if a perfect health, that means your utility value is 1. If there is a zero, is talks about the very worst health life. So 1 year of life multiply by one utility value, you will get one query. For example, if person lives in a perfect health but only for a half year, आधे साल के लिए जिया वो, right? That person will have a 0.5 query. How 0.5 query? क्योंकि 0.5 year of life 6 महीने 6 मंथ के लिए उसका सर्वाइवल था, मल्टीप्लाई बाई यूटिलिटी वैल्यू. बट जो 6 मंथ के लिए वो जो जी रहा था उसकी हेल्थ परफेक्ट थी. So that's why here value is 1, utility value is 1 because this is a perfect health. So then if you are multiplying it, you are getting 0.5 query. Are you getting my point? Conversely, if a person lives for a 1 year, कोई पेशेंट्स है वो 1 साल के लिए जीता है in a situation with 0.5 utility, half of the perfect health. 0.5 यूटिलिटी उसका स्कोर है क्योंकि उसकी हेल्थ परफेक्ट नहीं है, राइट? सो दैट पर्सन विल ऑल्सो हैव ए 0.5 क्वेली. हाउ? 1 year ऑफ लाइफ, 1 साल तक वो जिंदा रहा, और बट उसकी हेल्थ जो थी वो परफेक्ट नहीं थी, राइट? उसको मे बी उसकी जो 100% हेल्थ होनी चाहिए वो नहीं थी, दैट इज 0.5. दैट्स वाई देयर इज 50%. 0.5 यूटिलिटी वैल्यू. व्हेन यू आर मल्टीप्लाइंग इट, इट्स हैव ए 0.5 क्वेली, राइट? 0.5 क्वालिटी एडजस्टेड लाइफ ईयर. आर यू गेटिंग माई पॉइंट? यहाँ पर यहाँ जो है वो 1 साल के लिए जी रहा है, यहाँ पे क्या है 6 महीने के लिए, बट 6 महीने के लिए उसकी जो हेल्थ थी दैट इज अ परफेक्ट हेल्थ. दैट्स वाई 0.5 मल्टीप्लाई वन यूटिलिटी वैल्यू, यू आर गेटिंग 0.5 क्वेली. हेयर पेशेंट इज लिव्स फॉर द 1 year ऑफ लाइफ, 1 साल वो जिया, बट उसकी यूटिलिटी वैल्यू है 0.5, तो इट्स क्वेली इज 0.5 क्वेली, राइट? So again, now you can see much better example to understand better about query. So if a person lives for a 3 years, कोई भी पेशेंट्स है 3 साल के लिए विद ए डिजीज के साथ, and the current standard of care for that disease means he or she lives with the utility level of, उस डिजीज की यूटिलिटी लेवल है 0.7. ये जो वैल्यूज़ हैं ये स्टैंडर्ड टेबल्स हैं यूटिलिटी वैल्यूज़ के. लाइक किसी को डायबिटीज़ है तो उसकी यूटिलिटी वैल्यू अलग है, किसी को ब्लाइंडनेस है उसकी यूटिलिटी वैल्यू अलग है, किसी को जो भी, तो डिजीज़ के हिसाब से आपकी यूटिलिटी वैल्यूज़ हैं. तो इन दिस केस अगर पेशेंट्स लिव करता है 3 साल के लिए विद डिजीज़, एंड उसका जो करंट स्टैंडर्ड ऑफ केयर फॉर दैट डिजीज ही लिव्स विद द यूटिलिटी लेवल जो है वो 0.7 है, तो दैट पर्सन विल हैव ए 2.1 क्वेली. So how it's calculated, how it has a 2.1 query? 3 years कितनी लाइफ है उसकी? 3 साल, राइट? lives for a 3 year, 3 multiply by 0.7, तो easily you will calculate a 2.1 query, right? Now if that person, यही सेम केस की हम बात कर रहे हैं, if that person takes a new medicines, उसने कोई नई मेडिसिन ली, whereby his or her utility level increases to 0.9, अब उसकी यूटिलिटी वैल्यू इंक्रीज हो गई 0.7 से 0.9. So अब that person will now have a 2.7 क्वेली instead of 2.1. तो उस मेडिसिन ने कितनी क्वेली बढ़ाई? 0.6. आई होप आई एम क्लियर टू ऑल ऑफ यू. तो कितना क्वेली बढ़ा? 0.6 by giving that medicines. So you can see that when you are calculating it, because your utility score is increased by the medicines from 0.7 to 0.9. So when you multiply 3 multiply 0.9, it becomes 2.7, and benefit of new medicine is 0.6, because 2.7 minus 2.1 is 0.6, as this is the increase over the current standard of care. So 3 year of life multiply by additional utility level is 0.2 by the medicines, so it's a 0.6 query by the medicines. Are you getting my points? I hope concept regarding query and daily should be clear in your mind. And similarly, if a new medicine, this is the medicine A, medicine B, प्रोलॉन्ग दी पेशेंट्स लाइफ बाय 2 ईयर। उस मेडिसिन ने उस पेशेंट्स की जो लाइफ है वो 2 साल के लिए बढ़ा दी, और यूटिलिटी वैल्यू 0.7, राइट। यही यूटिलिटी वैल्यू यही रही, पर उस मेडिसिन ने उसकी जो लाइफ थी वो 2 साल उसको और जिंदा रख दिया। सो न्यू मेडिसिन विल प्रोवाइड द पर्सन विद 1.4 एडिशनल क्वेली। हाउ? क्योंकि 2 ईयर्स एडिशनल लाइफ, यहाँ मल्टीप्लाई बाई 0.7, कितना होगा? 1.4 क्वेली, राइट। So this is the simple calculations by which you can calculate the QALY, right? Is it hard to? This is the formula. QALY is equal to, again you have to remember the formula only, year of life multiply by utility value. That's it. That is your QALY. Always remember that. Now comes to uh, Delhi. QALY Delhi. Now comes to the Delhi. This is a QALY. Now Delhi. Disability adjusted life year. Now we talks about disability adjusted life year. So it's talk about morbidities plus mortality is equal to Delhi. So year lived with the disability. If the patient lives, how much year the patient lived with the disability, and life expectancy minus age at the death. That is we called YLL. YLL is life year lost due to disease. लाइफ ईयर लॉस्ट ड्यू टू डिजीज मीन्स, अगर फॉर एग्जाम्पल लाइफ आपकी जो लाइफ एक्सपेक्टेंसी है हम कंसिडर कर रहे हैं 70 साल, राइट। कि 70 साल तक एवरेज इंडिया में, मतलब एवरेज लाइफ एक्सपेक्टेंसी वी आर कंसिडरिंग 70 ईयर्स, राइट। अब क्या हुआ? पेशेंट मर गया 50 साल में, तो कितने लाइफ उसके लाइफ ईयर लॉस्ट ड्यू टू डिजीज कितने हो गए? कैन एनीवन आंसर इन द चैट बॉक्स? अगेन आई एम सेइंग लाइफ एक्सपेक्टेंसी हमने 70 साल मानी कि यार ऑन एंड एवरेज 70 साल जीता है इंडिया का आदमी, तो 70 साल जीता है। अब इसकी डेथ हो गई फॉर एग्जाम्पल 50 साल में, तो कितने ईयर लॉस हो गए? लाइफ ईयर लॉस्ट ड्यू टू डिजीज कितने? आंसर इन द चैट बॉक्स। वेरी सिंपल, 70 था, 50 साल ही जिया वो, तो 70 माइनस 50 कितना हो गया? 20 साल, राइट। And then year lived with the disabilities that you have to calculate, and you can calculate the Delhi के भी मैंने एग्जांपल से आपको और अच्छे समझ आएगा। डिसेबिलिटी वेट्स फुली हेल्दी होगा, वी आर गिविंग 0, या क्लब एफ बी क्लब 0 इज सेइंग राइट। 70 माइनस 50 20, राइट। चारवी कलाल 232 is also saying right. So here full healthy we are giving disability weight. Here disability where in quali we are talking about utility score. फुली हेल्दी को वहां हम कितना दे रहे थे? 1, राइट। यहाँ पे हम क्या कर रहे हैं? फुली हेल्दी को 0, डिसेबिलिटी, बिकॉज दीज आर द डिसेबिलिटी वेट्स, एंड 100% डिसेबल्ड को वी आर गिविंग 1। सो डेली इज इक्वल टू YLL मल्टीप्लाई YLD, एंड YLL इज द ईयर ऑफ लाइफ लॉस्ट एंड ईयर लिव्ड विद द डिसेबिलिटी। कितने साल उसने डिसेबिलिटी में बिताए? जैसे मैंने बोला 100 मतलब 70 साल का था, 50 में मर गया, 50 में भी मान लो उसने 5 साल बेड पे बिताए हैं डिसेबिलिटी के कारण, डिजीज के कारण, राइट। तो वो भी आपका एडिशन होगा। सो डेली इज डिसेबिलिटी एडजस्टेड लाइफ ईयर मेजर द ओवरऑल बर्डन ऑफ द डिजीज एक्सप्रेस्ड एज ए क्यूमुलेटिव नंबर ऑफ ईयर्स लॉस्ट ड्यू टू इल हेल्थ, डिसेबिलिटी और अर्ली डेथ। दिस अ हेल्दी लाइफ, राइट। यहाँ पे आते आते उसको बीमारी हो गई, बीमारी होने, दिस इज द एक्सपेक्टेड लाइफ ईयर्स, और उसकी पहले ही डेथ हो गई, राइट। 50 साल में ही मर गया, 70 साल में मरना था, तो 20 साल तो उसको ईयर लाइफ लॉस्ट हो गए। फिर फॉर एग्जांपल 50 में मरा, 40 में उसको कोई ऐसी डिसेबिलिटी हो गई थी, तो 10 साल तो उसने फिर डिसेबिलिटी में बिताए, तो ईयर लिव्ड विद डिसेबिलिटी 10 साल वो हो गए, फिर ईयर लाइफ लॉस्ट, दैट विल गिव यू द डेली डिसेबिलिटी एडजस्टेड लाइफ ईयर। आई होप इट्स क्लियर। अब आपको ज़्यादा अच्छे से समझ आएगा ये जो एग्जाम्पल मैंने डाला है, राइट। अब देखो इसको, दिल्ली की बात करें, ए मैन विद स्टैंडर्ड लाइफ एक्सपेक्टेंसी ऑफ 70 ईयर्स, राइट, डाइंग एट द एज ऑफ 50। सो इजी टू कैलकुलेट ईयर ऑफ लाइफ लॉस्ट, कितने उसके लाइफ के ईयर लॉस्ट हुए? 20 साल। अब फॉर एग्जाम्पल ही और सी एडिशनली टर्न ब्लाइंड एट द एज ऑफ 45, सो 5 years स्पेंट इन द डिसेबिलिटी स्टेट, राइट। 45 की एज में वो ब्लाइंड हो गया, 50 में मरा, तो 5 साल उसने जो स्पेंड किए, the patient has spent that years in a disability state, and weight factor for that blindness is 0.33. Again, this is standard table by which you get the weight factor for the disability. So blindness disability के लिए weight factor जो है वो है 0.33, राइट. तो वाई एल डी क्या हो गया, 0.33 जो वेट फैक्टर है, मल्टीप्लाई बाई 5, तो इट बिकम 1.65. एंड डेली इज जो आपके वाई एल एल है, राइट, प्लस वाई एल डी इज द डेली, वाई एल एल प्लस वाई एल डी. सो वाई एल एल इज ईयर ऑफ लाइफ लॉस्ट इज 20 years, वाई एल डी इज year of life with disability 1.65, so it become 21.65 Delhi. I hope it's clear, or otherwise I have to be repeated again. But this concept should be in your mind for your entire life, you know. Whenever you are going for interview or anything, you should not be confused between Delhi and Quelly. Simple concept, but very important concept. When we talk about particularly cost utility analysis, we have to do these outcome we have to measure in terms of Quelly or Delhi, right? Anyone who has any question up to this? तो Delhi and Quelly समझ आ गया? Again I am repeating, Quelly में क्या था? Quali में we are talking about year of life multiplied by utility value. That's it. That is your quali, right? So year of life अगर 1 साल है, 2 साल है, 6 साल है, और utility values. So that means quali means measure of years lived in the perfect health gain, and measure of years in the perfect health lost is Delhi. So quali ऐसे calculate हो जाएगा, Delhi आपका ऐसे calculate होगा, Delhi is equal to by LL multiply by YLD, year of life lost, year lived with the disability, right? Oh, sorry, not multiply, it's a plus, year of life lost. So it become 21.65 is the your Delhi. Okay. So quali, if you go through the WHO websites, you can calculate it, measuring quality of life. You know, there are a online these one as well, calculator also for the quali and Delhi. So, but of course, you should know about the formulas, because you should have the ability to calculate manually as well. You have a calculators, online calculators are there, but you know, you should understand the formulas, and you should not forget about the formulas or basic concepts. So stakeholders in pharmacoeconomics or HEOR is providers, who is providing, patients, society, and payers. These all are the stakeholders. So when we are doing pharmacoeconomic studies, we have to be consider the perspective as well, which perspective, particular stakeholder perspective we are doing that particular pharmacoeconomic analysis. So if we talk about basic pharmacoeconomic equations, starting with the basic, this is very basic. It's I can't say it's a you know, complete pharmacoeconomics. It's a partial pharmacoeconomics to understand about the pharmacoeconomics. So one side you can see that there is a cost, another side there is a outcome, and there is a, you are measuring the outcomes in terms of efficacy, safety, or quality of life. And now you are comparing intervention of interest with the alternative. So alternative can be your standard care, current practice, whatever. So you are comparing the cost. One side you have a intervention cost, another side you have a comparator cost, and you are comparing them in terms of outcome, and outcomes you are measuring in terms of safety, efficacies, and quality of life. So it's a you know, particularly basic pharmacoeconomic equation, so you can understand that what is pharmacoeconomics. So again I am telling, pharmacoeconomics का मतलब ये नहीं है कि आपको सिर्फ cost analysis करनी है. You have to consider cost of particular interventions in terms of its consequences. So you can see that these are the few examples which highlighted that how important these pharmacoeconomic studies are, and it will tell you about how many cost saving, how many, you know, financial burden to the patients you can reduce by prescribing the you know, right medicines, cost effective medicines to the patients. By, you can see on your screen, this is just a case one I have copied from somewhere. These are the medicines for the cancer, breast cancer, As per these are the medicines which are prescribed as per the national essential list of the medicines, national list of essential medicines: cyclophosphamide, adramycin, and 5-fluorouracils, right? When you have just replaced one medicines which is not in the essential list of the medicines, and you have replaced it with the other medicines, and these both medicines mechanism is same, these both are acting on DNAs, these are DNA alkylating agents, both mechanism is same, but you have replaced it, and this apirubicin is not in the essential list of the medicines. So by replacing just one medicines, you can see that if you are prescribing these medicines as per this NLEM, so their cost is for 13,294, right? And if you are replacing only the one medicines, you can see that how much cost burden has been increased to the patients: 46,821. Are you getting my point? So this is 3.5 times costlier. And sir, the differences between these two is they're same mechanism, same class of the medicines. But if medicine is prescribed from these, so how much financial burden it will increase to the patients. This is another case, two examples where you can see that these are the medicines which are prescribed as per the essential list of the medicine for the management of hypertensions, right? If you are calculating for 1 year, you will find that if a patient is managed with amlodipine, hydrochlorothiazide, or enalpril, the cost is only the 472 rupees. But if you see that if one medicine, amlodipine, is your calcium channel blocker, it's substituted with another one which is not in the essential list of the medicines, cost is increased 1.2 times. If hydrochlorothiazide is replaced with another diuretics, chlorthalidone, of the same category, so how much cost it will increase? If you are replacing enalpril, that is the angiotensin converting enzyme inhibitor, with lisinopril, which is also the ACE inhibitors, you can see that how much cost has been increased. So that's why pharmacoeconomic studies will give you a picture how much cost saving you can do by picking up the medicines which are in the essential list of the medicines, because that are the medicines you will get through the Jan Aushadhi Kendras as well, and you can see the differences in terms of cost, right? So in pharmacoeconomics also we are considering the pharmacovigilance as well. So that we call pharmacoeconomics of pharmacovigilance. Many times I give the example to the students. If I ask you, there are two medicines, one is of 10 rupees, another one is of 20 rupees, and these medicines are useful in the, for example, rheumatoid arthritis patients, and working by the same mechanism. So which medicine is going to be a cost effective, 10 rupees or 20 rupees? Can anyone answer in the chat box? PVG, Nikki is saying PVG stands for pharmacovigilance, pharmacoeconomics of pharmacovigilance. FB Club is also saying if a person is 100% disabled in hearing and weight factor is 0.3, constant or not? It's a constant. 0.3 is the constant. It's a weight factor for the blind, that one, disability in hearing. No, not disability. That is, I think, blindness. We are talking 0.3 is for blindness. For hearing, there can be a separate weight factor. FB Club 0. For every disability, there is a separate weight factor is provided. Got it? FB Club. So another question is 20 rupees is effective. You can't say 20 rupees is effective or 10 rupees is effective unless and until if you are doing the pharmacoeconomic studies. Only that studies will help you to understand which medicine is going to be cost effective, right? So you can't say 20 rupees will be cost effective, or 40 rupees will be cost effective, or 50 rupees will be cost effective. Sometimes the for example 50 rupees cost medicine is providing less adverse effect as compared to 20 rupees. So to manage the adverse event caused by the medicines, you have to spend more money. So if you're doing the cumulative analysis, you got to know that no, this medicine is cost effective for this particular treatment, right? A big club is saying because it's efficacy and effective in treatment, I guess. because it's efficacy and effective. I didn't get it what you are saying. Okay, so sir, so what I mean to say in this slide is we have to be consider the cost which is involved to manage adverse drug reaction of the medicines. That is we call pharmacoeconomic or pharmacovigilance, right? So we talk about two things. One is cost and then safety efficacy. So you should understand about different types of cost when we talk about pharmacoeconomic study is direct cost, indirect cost, and intangible cost. So direct cost are the cost like drug cost, cost of administrations, consultation fees, standard care of hospital, ICU, hospital staff, ambulance, cost of treating ADR, lab tests, surgical procedures. So these all comes under direct cost. Indirect cost is loss of earning, right? Cost of the travel to the hospital, not only the patients but also the family you have to consider. And there is another type of cost that we call intangible. Intangible is the cost which is not possible to measure in the monetary terms. That is the pain, worry of families and patients that we are putting in the category of intangible cost, right? There are three types of cost in pharmacoeconomic studies. So you should not be confused direct cost, indirect cost, and intangible, right? So, but of course, when we are doing pharmacoeconomic studies, we are considering direct and indirect because intangible is something which you can't be measured in the monetary terms. So you can measure the cost per unit, cost per treatment, cost per persons. You can calculate cost per person per year, cost per case prevented in case of vaccines, cost per life saved, cost per DALF, cost per query. So all these, depending upon your research questions, you can do it, right? So now we are going to be enter into the next part, that is the different types of the pharmacoeconomic studies. What are the different types of the pharmacoeconomic studies? So there are number of types. So what major types which we talk about is cost minimizations, cost benefit, cost effectiveness, and cost utility. There is a cost of consequences analysis as well. There is a budget impact analysis as well when we talk about pharmacoeconomic studies. But majorly we are categorizing these studies into these types: cost minimizations, cost benefit, cost effectiveness, cost utility. And this is the plane, cost effectiveness plane. Nikkei is saying intangible cost is the physical cost. Physical cost means what? Intangible cost is something which you can't measure in the monetary terms, like suffering, worries, pain. That is your intangible cost. So now you can see that in this quadrant 1, quadrant 2, quadrant 3, quadrant 4. So quadrant 1, where your cost of the medicine is high and effectiveness is also high, right? This is one scenario. Another scenario is cost is more, effectiveness is less. Another scenario is cost is less, effectiveness is less. Another scenario will be cost is less, effectiveness is more. So now looking at these four scenarios, if we talk about this quadrant 2, the medicines whose cost is high and effectiveness is less. So do you want such kind of medicines? No, you don't want such kind of medicines whose cost is high or unki efficacy kam ho. So the medicine which fall under quadrant 2, that is dominated, right? You can easily make the decisions. You can easily reject these. Like that, in quadrant 4, your cost is less and effectiveness is more. So it's easy to decide. That is dominant. You want such kind of medicines whose cost is less and effectiveness is more. Yeah, Nick is saying yes, physical cost means, yeah, you are right. Conditions you are suffering from, right? So, if we talk about quadrant 2 and quadrant 4, is it hard to make the decisions? Is it required to do the pharmacoeconomic studies? If you have a medicine whose cost बहुत ज़्यादा है और effectiveness कम है, तो उस केस में क्या pharmacoeconomic studies करने की ज़रूरत है? Can anyone answer it? Answer it in the chat box. मैं बोल रहा हूँ कि मेडिसिन कॉस्टली है और इफेक्ट कम दे रही है, तो उस केस में भी फार्माको इकोनॉमिक स्टडी करोगे? नहीं, निक्की गर्ग नहीं, नहीं है ज़रूरत ना, कि अगर मेडिसिन कॉस्टली और इफ़ेक्टिवनेस कम है, तो उसमें ज़रूरत नहीं है, वो क्लियर कट है कि यार वो मेडिसिन तो आपकी कॉस्टली है और इफ़ेक्टिव है नहीं, तो उसकी काहे की फार्माकोइकोनॉमिक स्टडी करनी, राइट? देन एफबी क्लब इज सेइंग नो। अब दूसरा है, दूसरा सिनेरियो कॉस्ट कम है और इफ़ेक्टिवनेस ज़्यादा है। इसमें भी क्लियर कट डिसीजन है, देयर इज़ नो नीड टू डू द एनालिसिस। वो क्लियर कट बोल रहा है कॉस्ट कम है, इफ़ेक्टिवनेस ज़्यादा है, तो इससे डोमिनेंट एंड कॉस्ट सेविंग, राइट? यू वांट सच काइंड ऑफ मेडिसिन्स, तो उसमें भी कोई फार्माकोइकोनॉमी की ज़रूरत नहीं है। आप क्वाड्रेंट 1 और क्वाड्रेंट 3 की वो देखो सिनेरियो। क्वाड्रेंट 1 में है कॉस्ट ज़्यादा है, इफ़ेक्टिवनेस ज़्यादा है, सो इन दैट केस यू हैव टू डू क्वाड्रेंट 1 का। देखो अब कॉस्ट, वो बोल रहा है कि कॉस्ट मेरी मेडिसिन महंगी है, वो कंपनी वाला बोल रहा है मेडिसिन महंगी है बट मैं ज़्यादा इफेक्टिवनेस भी दे रहा हूँ भाई, मैं तुम्हारा ब्लड ग्लूकोज भी तो अच्छे से कंट्रोल करूँगा, तो इन दैट केस फार्माको इकोनॉमिक इज रिक्वायर्ड। तीसरा क्वाड्रेंट, वो बोल रहा है कॉस्ट मेरी कम है और इफेक्टिवनेस भी उतनी ज़्यादा नहीं है बट कम है, थोड़ी कम है, तो इट्स जजमेंटल। यू हैव टू डू द फार्माकोइकोनॉमिक स्टडी। कितनी कम है, क्या उसको अफोर्ड किया जा सकता है? क्योंकि यू नो इन कंट्रीज लाइक अस देयर आर लॉट ऑफ रूरल पॉपुलेशंस हु आर अनेबल टू पे द मनी फॉर द मेडिसिन, so you have to be the medicines which fall under quadrant 1 and quadrant 3, we have to go for the pharmacoeconomic studies. Now one by one we are going to discuss. First one is cost minimizations. Cost minimization कब करनी है, कैसे करनी है, how to do it, and small project also you can do it in your institute or in your labs regarding cost minimizations. So cost minimization already we have discussed. तीन तरह की मेडिसिन मार्केट में है, ब्रांडेड ब्रांडेड, ब्रांडेड जेनरिक, जेनरिक जेनरिक, राइट? Cost minimization studies are helpful. Particularly, there is a one criteria for the cost minimization study is or assumptions that should be fulfilled. Otherwise, you can't go for the cost minimization. और वो assumption क्या है? वो assumption ये है कि आप you have to be consider, if you are doing the cost minimization studies, you have to be consider that all these medicines are equally effective and equally safe. जैसे अगर हम बात करें ब्रांडेड जेनरिक ड्रग्स और जेनरिक ड्रग्स, तो वी आर अज्यूमिंग दैट दीज ऑल मेडिसिन, अगर आपको पैरासीटामोल आप जन औषधि केंद्र से ले रहे हो या सिप्ला की ले रहे हो या सन फार्मा की ले रहे हो या एबॉट की ले रहे हो या ग्लेनमार्क की ले रहे हो, वो सब इक्वली इफेक्टिव हैं, इक्वली सेफ है। That is the assumptions for the cost minimization. If you are assuming these all are equally effective and safe, then you can go with the cost minimization studies in the pharmacoeconomic. If their outcomes are different, you can't go for the cost minimizations. You have to pick up, you can go with the cost effectiveness, cost utility, or cost benefit analysis, not with the cost minimization. So you should always remember in your means you always clear about the concept. कॉस्ट मिनिमाइजेशन हम तभी कर सकते हैं जब हम कंसीडर कर रहे हैं कि जो मेडिसिन की हम कॉस्ट मिनिमाइजेशन स्टडीज कर रहे हैं वो इक्वली इफेक्टिव हैं और इक्वली सेफ हैं। आर यू गेटिंग माय पॉइंट? एनी क्वेश्चन सो फार? ये बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट अजम्पशन है। अगर आपकी आउटकम्स इक्वल नहीं है तो आप कॉस्ट मिनिमाइजेशन स्टडी करने नहीं जा सकते। तो वो किस केस में इक्वल होती हैं? जब आप जेनरिक की बात करते हो, जब आप जेनरिक ब्रांडेड की बात करते हो। सिप्ला ने भी ANDA फाइल किया तब उसको जेनरिक मिला उस पर्टिकुलर मेडिसिन का। सन फार्मा ने भी अप्लाई किया, उसका API भी सेम है, डोज भी सेम है, फॉर्मुलेशन भी सेम है, और उनका बायोइक्वलेंस का जो क्राइटेरिया है, जो AUC 80 to 125 की रेंज में और Cmax Tmax से सिमिलर हैं, सेम है, तो वो क्राइटेरिया फुलफिल किया है इन सभी मेडिसिन ने। सो यू आर अज्यूमिंग दैट दीज आर इक्वली इफेक्टिव एंड सेफ। सो इन सच केसेस यू कैन गो विद द कॉस्ट मिनिमाइजेशन। सो कॉस्ट मिनिमाइजेशन अगर आपको स्टडीज़ करनी है तो आप यू कैन अज्यूम दैट अजम्पशंस एंड देन यू कैन कंपेयर द कॉस्ट। तो आपको अब बचा क्या? अगर कॉस्ट मिनिमाइजेशन स्टडी करनी है तो आपको कौन सा डाटा चाहिए कॉस्ट मिनिमाइजेशन स्टडी करने के लिए? अब एफिकेसी सेफ्टी का तो डाटा ही नहीं चाहिए, क्योंकि आपने पहले एजम्पशन कॉस्ट मिनिमाइजेशन की वही है कि आपका सेफ्टी और एफिकेसी तो इक्वल है दोनों मेडिसिन का, तीनों जितने भी आपको कंपेयर करनी है। तो अब बचा क्या? किस चीज़ का डाटा चाहिए आपको कॉस्ट मिनिमाइजेशन स्टडी करने के लिए? राइट इन द चैट बॉक्स। मैंने आपको बताया फार्माकोइकोनॉमिक में एक साइड है कॉस्ट, एक साइड है एफिकेसी, सेफ्टी, क्वालिटी ऑफ लाइफ, ये सब चीज़ें हैं। बट कॉस्ट मिनिमाइजेशन स्टडी ने तो वो चीज़ ही बंद कर दी, ख़त्म कर दी। वो तो बोल रहे हैं कि वो तो इक्वली इफेक्टिव है, इक्वली सेफ है, इक्वली क्वालिटी ऑफ लाइफ भी इक्वल है। तो अब बचा क्या? कॉस्ट, राइट? तो इसमें दैट्स व्हाई इन कॉस्ट मिनिमाइजेशन स्टडीज आर वेरी सिंपल टू टू इम्प्लीमेंट. You have to calculate only the percentage of cost variations, but of course their implication is high, right? So how to perform it? If any one of you would like to do cost minimization studies, किसी को करनी है, किसी को जो भी करना है, पब्लिकेशन के लिए करनी है, जो भी करना है, तो how to perform it, cost minimization studies. So you can get the data किस चीज़ का चाहिए? कॉस्ट का. And cost data you can get from CIMS, that is a current index of medical store, for cost of the generic medicines, generic branded medicines, and cost of the generic studies, sorry, medicines, you can get from the Pradhan Mantri Bharatiya Jan Aushadhi scheme. So there is a Pradhan Mantri Jan Aushadhi scheme of India. In the websites you can get the cost of the generic branded. generic की cost आपको कहाँ से मिल जाएगी? CIMS से. अगर आप कॉस्ट मिनिमाइजेशन कर रहे हो तो ये इसका मतलब ये नहीं है कि आपने कहीं से भी कॉस्ट उठा ली, गूगल से उठा ली, 1mg से उठा ली, उन्होंने कुछ डिस्काउंट अप्लाई किया है कि कोई 5% डिस्काउंट दे रहा है, कोई 10% दे रहा है, तो उससे आपका स्टैंडर्डाइज नहीं होगा. तो वेन एवर यू आर गोइंग फॉर ए कॉस्ट मिनिमाइजेशन स्टडीज, यू पिक अप द कॉस्ट डाटा फ्रॉम द स्टैंडर्डाइज सोर्सेज. आप जो स्टैंडर्डाइज सोर्सेज है, जो CIMS है, आपने देखा होगा केमिस्ट की दुकान में एक बुकलेट भी रहती है, दैट इज ऑल्सो CIMS, ऑनलाइन भी अवेलेबल है. तो आप वहाँ से ब्रांडेड ड्रग्स, ब्रांडेड जेनरिक का कॉस्ट ले सकते हो, और जेनरिक का आप वहाँ से ले सकते हो. और सिंपल सा फॉर्मूला है, परसेंटेज ऑफ कॉस्ट वेरिएशन इज इक्वल टू कॉस्ट ऑफ मोस्ट एक्सपेंसिव ड्रग माइनस कॉस्ट ऑफ लीस्ट एक्सपेंसिव ड्रग मल्टीप्लाई बाई कॉस्ट ऑफ लीस्ट एक्सपेंसिव ड्रग मल्टीप्लाई बाई 100. सो विल गेट टू नो अबाउट द परसेंटेज ऑफ कॉस्ट वेरिएशन. तो उससे आपको ये पता चलेगा कि अगर किसी पेशेंट्स को हाइपरटेंशन हुई है, अगर वो जन औषधि की दवाई खाता है 6 महीने के लिए या 1 महीने के लिए, और अगर वो सिप्ला की खाता है, अगर वो सन फार्मा की खाता है, अगर वो किसी दूसरी कंपनी की खाता है, तो कितना पैसा वो अपना बचा सकता है, किस में उसका पैसा ज़्यादा लगेगा, और किस में वो कितना पैसा, कितनी परसेंटेज सेविंग कर सकता है अपनी. So these by these studies you will get to know about that, how much cost saving you can do it, what is the percentage of cost variations, कि इनकी cost में कितनी variations हैं आपस में. So that is a simple formula you can see on the screen. आपको क्या करना है? Cost of most expensive drug minus least divided by least multiply by 100. So this is the one studies which we have done earlier with respect to cost minimizations. If you are writing these studies, you can publish in a journal as well. Not very high, but if your topic is very good, so you can go with a good journal as well. So this is the one of the simple study we have done where we have compared the cost of the drugs in the treatment of asthma and COPD. So percentage of cost variations we have calculated and published it. These are the some of the tables. You have to put that data into the tables, and then by that formulas you can calculate the percentage. So you can see that is a high expensive branded generic drug cost, this is the least expensive, these are bidunosides, right? So you can see that percentage of cost variations, how much variation is there. So by these analysis you will get to know that, as I said, कि अगर डायबिटीज़ का पेशेंट मैनेज करना है, अगर जन औषधि केंद्र से अगर दवाई चलती है 1 महीने के लिए, तो कितना खर्चा आएगा, अगर सिप्ला की चला रहा हूँ तो कितना आएगा, अगर सन फार्मा की कर रहा हूँ यूज़ तो कितना आएगा, और कितना पैसा आपका सेव हो सकता है, राइट? Any question so far? So challenges is with respect to cost, because cost is something which is updated time to time, and price updates are there. Have to be take care whenever you are taking the cost data, you have to take the recently updated cost data. आपको पता है cost जो है वो सेम नहीं रहती, वो year by year will be changed, so you have to be use the recently updated price data. So as we have discussed about the cost minimization study, so you can see that to do the cost minimization studies, you can see this should be there. You are considering outcome A is equal to outcome B, then only you can go for the cost minimization. If your outcome A is not equal to outcome B, right, outcome of the A medicine is not equal to outcome of B, then in that case you can't go for the cost minimizations. If your outcomes are not equal, then you can go with the cost benefit analysis, cost effectiveness, cost utility. So what are the difference between these three? Cost benefit analysis, we are measuring the outcomes in terms of monetary benefits, right? In cost effectiveness, we are measuring the outcomes in terms of physical units like morbidity, mortality. In cost utility analysis, we are measuring the outcome in terms of quality, right? Quality of life or daily as well. So, these are the assumptions for the pharmacoeconomic studies. Cost minimizations कब करनी है, cost benefit, cost effectiveness, cost benefit analysis. If you go through the literature, you will find that as compared to cost effectiveness or cost utility, you will get less studies on cost benefit. The reason is because it's not easy to calculate the outcomes in terms of monetary benefits. कि आउटकम भी आपको मॉनेटरी मॉनेटरी बेनिफिट्स में निकालनी है, कि वैसे नहीं निकालनी है आउटकम। अगर आप ऐसे निकाल रहे हो कि ब्लड ग्लूकोज कम हो रहा है, अगर आपका 5 mg पर डेसीलीटर कम हो रहा है, तो वो 5 mg डेसीलीटर कम होने से आपका कितना पैसा बेनिफिट हो रहा है, वो कैलकुलेशन होता है। तो दैट्स व्हाई कॉस्ट बेनिफिट एनालिसिस आर लेस एज कम्पेयर टू कॉस्ट कॉस्ट इफेक्टिवनेस में तो आपका सीधा सीधी वैल्यूज है, इट्स आउटकम इज इन द फिजिकल यूनिट्स। Cost utility में you are talking about outcome in term of value daily that we already discussed. That is also not very hard to calculate, right? So now cost effectiveness. So when we talk about cost effectiveness, as I said, cost effectiveness studies we are doing when outcomes are not equal. Outcome of the A drug is not equal to outcome of B drug, right? Any questions so far? Just give me one second. Yeah. किसी का कोई क्वेश्चन समझ आ रहा है या नहीं आ रहा है? सो कॉस्ट इफेक्टिवनेस की जब हम बात करते हैं तो हम बात करते हैं कॉस्ट के भी और उसकी कंसिक्वेंसेस के भी। एंड अजम्पशन क्या है, हम अज्यूम कर रहे हैं कि अगर ए ड्रग जो है वो मे भी ज़्यादा कॉस्ट मतलब ज़्यादा इफेक्टिव है एज कम्पेयर टू बी, या लेस इफेक्टिव है, दैट मीन्स outcomes are not equal. That's why we are going with the cost effectiveness. So cost effectiveness is a analytical tool in which the cost, harms and benefit of the interventions A and at least one alternative should be there. Because if you want to do the cost effectiveness, you should have the comparator, then only you can say that my medicine is cost effective as compared to this, right? So you are measuring the ratio of the incremental cost. So how you can calculate incremental cost, cost of the intervention A minus cost of intervention B, right? That is the incremental cost. And how you can calculate the incremental benefit, effectiveness of intervention A minus effectiveness of intervention B, right? Can anyone ask sorry, can I ask one question to all of you is, what is the difference between efficacy and effectiveness? Or these both are same, or there is any difference between these two terms, efficacy and effectiveness? Anyone? What is the difference between efficacy and effectiveness? Can anyone write in the chat box? Efficacy और effectiveness में क्या difference है? Yes. Anyone? Anyone writing? What it? Yeah, someone is writing. Yeah. Yeah, Nikki Garg is saying efficacy is seen in the clinical trial. Yeah, you are right. And what about effectiveness? FB Club is also saying efficacy means compliance. And it means compliance. The Nikki is saying effectiveness is seen in large. Yeah, Nikki Garg is saying right. Efficacy means when you are testing your drug in the small number of patients or in a controlled conditions like clinical trial. So in that case, we are talking about efficacies when your drug is in the market, when you are getting efficacy and safety data, we called effectiveness. So you can calculate the incremental effect. and difference in the cost between the treatment divided by the difference in their effect, that is be called ICER. So what is ICER? ICER is the incremental cost effectiveness ratio. When we talk about cost effectiveness, we talk about ICER. So formula for ICER is cost of the medicines A minus cost of medicine B divided by effectiveness of intervention A minus effectiveness of intervention B. That is we called ICER, incremental cost effectiveness ratio, and we are calculating it in the cost effectiveness analysis. And if incremental cost is small or incremental effect is large, ICER would be small, right? Therefore, a smaller ICER indicate better cost effectiveness. You can see the in denominator what is in the denominator is effectiveness. If effectiveness is increased, so ICER will increase or decrease. ICER is going to decrease, right? So smaller ICER indicate better cost effectiveness. If your ICER is increased, so that means the cost is increased, effectiveness is less, right? So if incremental cost is small or incremental effect is large, ICER would be small. Is it clear? So when we talk about cost effectiveness analysis, we talk about ICER, incremental cost effectiveness ratio. And then when we are calculating the ICER, we are comparing it with the cost effectiveness threshold. So every country has their own threshold, right? So that we call willingness to pay, WTP. So WTP is a cost effectiveness threshold of the payment for treatment, and every country has a different WTP, right? That's why XYZ medicines might be cost effective in the US but not in India, right? Because Indian WTP is different, willing to pay is different, and willing to pay is calculated based on the GDP of the country, right? So like UK has a ICR criteria of 20,000 to 30 British pound per query, and cost effectiveness of treatment A is good if its ICR over treatment B is less than this GBP, right? So cost effectiveness threshold based on multiples of country per capita gross domestic product. So it depends upon the GDP of the country. That's why, as I said, one medicine can be cost effective in the US, but same medicines cannot be cost effective in the may or may not be cost effective in the other countries, because everyone has different WTP, and WTP is what is willing to pay. Willing to pay is a cost effectiveness threshold of the payment for the treatment, right? So now you can see again this cost effectiveness plane, which tell you about decision criteria in cost effectiveness analysis or cost utility analysis. So quadrant 1, right? Quadrant 2, you can see that it's there is no need because new treatment dominated, so there is no, and new treatment dominates, yes. So you want such kind of medicines whose effect is more and cost is less, but you don't want such kind of medicines whose cost is high and effect is less. But in here you have to make the decisions, so you have to do the pharmacoeconomic studies. Got it? Because it's telling about you high cost but high effectiveness, and it's telling about you less cost and less effectiveness, right? So how to do it, that is the important questions. If anyone of you want to do cost effectiveness analysis, so how you can do it? So to do the cost effectiveness, similarly in cost minimization study is easy to do, because you are dealing with only one data, that is a cost, right? And you are particularly dealing with the cost of the medicines, not with respect to other different types of cost. But when we talk about cost effectiveness study, cost utility, cost benefits, we are talking about efficacies, we are talking about safety of that particular medicines. So you need the data. So you will find that many secondary researchers are going through the clinical trials which are conducted on that and go through the data with respect to its efficacy and safety. But of course, sometime you will find difficulty if you want to do in India. So maybe you will not get clinical trial which is conducted in India for that XYZ medicines. So you have to check. So you can clinical trials from the clinical trial you will get the data. And another thing is if there is a multiple clinical trial is done, so you can go with the meta analysis. So meta-analysis of the clinical trial is recommended for the use of health economic analysis. So that's why I told you earlier as well, to become a good pharmacoeconomics expert, you should also have a knowledge about SLR, meta, grade analysis, and so on. So that also we have conducted earlier workshop, and you maybe many of you have already joined that workshop, and you get an ideas what is SLR, meta analysis, and grade analysis, and how to do that. So you will connect that part with this one, and you can get the data. So I am skipping these slides because these already we have conducted a workshop on these SLR, meta, and grade analysis. So you can see this is the process of SLR, meta, how to analyze the data, and what are the different overall estimate measures we have discussed. With respect to dichotomous data, we talk about odd ratio, relative risk, whereas with continuous data we talk about mean difference, standard mean difference, right? And we talk about forest plots when we talk about at one funnel plot. All these we have discussed in detail. So I am skipping this part. What is models, what, how to fix effect model, which model is better, and you can registrations of your protocol, quality assessment, all these analysis. So now we are going to discuss another type of analysis, pharmacoeconomics, that is a CUA, that is a cost utility analysis. So I hope you got an idea about the cost effectiveness. So in cost effectiveness, you will get the data. Means whether it is cost effectiveness or cost utility or cost benefit, you will get the data with respect to efficacy and safety of the medicines from the clinical trial, right? So clinical trials are being, you will get the data from the clinical trial registries, or many of the clinical trials results are published in the good journal. So you will get the data from that, and you can mention in your paper you have used the data from these trials with respect to efficacy and safety. And another aspect is your cost utility analysis. So what is cost utility analysis? Just give me 1 second. So cost utility analysis, already we have discussed. In cost utility analysis, we talk about outcomes in terms of quali and Delhi, right? So already we have discussed. If you want to compare the treatments, just give me 1 second. Mhm. Okay, cost utility analysis, we are measuring the outcomes in terms of quali and Delhi, right? So quali, we have already discussed what is quali and how to calculate it. So you can see on the slides, when we talk about quali, we are talking about utility scores as well. So you can see that there are two treatment A and B. Treatment A 4 years, right? And utility score is your zero point 0.5. Treatment B 10-year, utility score is 0.8. You can calculate it 2 quali and 8 quali, right? So yeah, you can calculate the incremental ratios. The for them, this is the cost which you have get, direct cost and indirect cost. This is the for the B treatment, this is $1,500. A, this is the $1,000. And for the B you are getting 8 quali, and for A you are getting 2 quali. So if you get to calculate the increment of B over A, so you will get $500 and 6 quali. So incremental cost outcome is $500 divided by 6 quali. So what does it means? It means 83.33 per quali gain, right? So next is your cost effectiveness models. Now we are going to enter with respect to models. So models we have so many time discuss about the different types of models, but we have discussed about SLR, metas, or these kind of models. But today we are going to discuss about pharmacoeconomic models, right? So pharmacoeconomic models, when we call about effectiveness models, so it predict, because model is something which is we are calculate, means be predicting something based on the available evidence. So here we predict the cost and effectiveness of the interventions based on the best available evidence, and provide a robust analytical approach for the policymaker regulatory to assess if the cost associated with the intervention is worth paying or not. It's not a worth paying. So that you will get by doing the cost effectiveness models. So what are the different types of pharmacoeconomic models? You might heard about Markov models. You might heard about decision tree model, micro simulations, transmission modeling. So these are the different types of pharmacoeconomic models. So if someone have suffering from the chronic disease, so we will go with the Markov model. If someone have a acute disease with no future impact, we will go with the decision tree model. If there are complex diseases, so we go with the micro simulations. If there is a communicable diseases or vaccinations, we go with the transmission modeling. So these are the different types of model. So depending upon the disease, we picked up the model. So you should clear about when we will go with the Markov models, when we will go with the decision tree model. So decision tree model is particularly for the acute diseases with no future impact. If there is a acute disease but with future impact, you will go with the Markov model. Are you getting my point? If you have a acute disease but with future impact, so you will go with the Markov model. So Markov model is very popular for the chronic diseases, right? Micro simulation is for the complex diseases. Transmission modeling we are doing for the communicable diseases or vaccinations. So Markov model. First one is Markov model. So what is Markov models? Just a basic understanding. So studied disease is divided. We are dividing into two distinct and mutually exclusive state. That will be called health state. So in Markov model, we talk about health state, and patient can only be in the one state at a time, right? या तो पेशेंट्स एक ही स्टेट में होगा ना, दो स्टेट में एक टाइम पे दो स्टेट में नहीं हो सकता, राइट? So that is the transition probabilities we are assigning to represent the patients moving between these two states over discrete time period, right? तो डिस्क्रीट, मान लो अभी मेरे को माइनर डिजीज है, फिर मैं अगली स्टेज में मॉडरेट में एंटर कर गया, फिर वो पेशेंट सीवियर में चला गया, फिर उसकी डेथ हो गई, राइट? सो देर आर डिफरेंट एंड यू हैव टू कैलकुलेट द प्रोबेबिलिटी. व्हाट इज द प्रोबेबिलिटी? अगर किसी को माइनर डिजीज है, इट कैन बी रिकवर, इट कैन बी गो टू द मेजर. मेजर है तो इट कैन गो इनटू द सीरियस और इट कैन बी रिकवर्ड, right? So transition probability we are assigning to represent patients moving between these states over the discrete time period, and that we call Markov cycle. And apply of these transitions in the model and attaching estimate of resource use and health consequences to the state. And then with the help of computers, we are running this model over a large number of cycles. And with respect to Markov, we called it Markov cycles, right? So now you it's a simple models, means don't be think it's very complex to understand about pharmacoeconomic models, but you have to be first take the copy and pen, and you can design the models. You can see this is just means without this a drawing tool, simple drawing tool, just created the model. And whenever you are creating the model, after creation of the models, you have to be validate the model with the experts, because sometime if you missed out any any possibilities, so it will be become incomplete models. You can see that how this model has been created. Detected infections, right? It's not detected, no test has been done, and it's remain undetected, and patient can dies. You have to imagine कि अगर आपको डिजीज हुई है, फॉर एग्जाम्पल इस केस में हम बात करें, अगर आपको इन्फेक्शन हुआ है, तो क्या क्या सिनेरियो हो सकते हैं? एक सिनेरियो तो ये है कि आपका इन्फेक्शन डिटेक्ट ही नहीं हुआ, आपने ना आपने भी आप गए ही नहीं क्या बोलते फिजिशियन के पास, ना टेस्ट करवाया, और आपको एक दिन सडनली आपकी डेथ हो गई. दैट इज द वन पॉसिबिलिटी, राइट? अनदर पॉसिबिलिटी इज आपका इन्फेक्शन डिटेक्ट हुआ, राइट? इन्फेक्शन डिटेक्ट होने के बाद आप रिकवर कर सकते हैं, आपने दवाइयाँ ली, आपने ट्रीटमेंट किया, आप रिकवर हो गए. दैट इज द वन पॉसिबिलिटी, राइट? अनदर पॉसिबिलिटी है क्या हो सकती हैं? इन्फेक्शन डिटेक्ट हुआ, उसके बाद आपको हॉस्पिटलाइजेशन की ज़रूरत नहीं पड़ी और आप रिकवर हो गए, राइट? आप नो हॉस्पिटलाइजेशंस या हॉस्पिटलाइजेशन की ज़रूरत पड़ सकती है डिटेक्शन के बाद, या हॉस्पिटलाइजेशंस प्लस आईसीयू में भी जा सकते हो, या हॉस्पिटलाइजेशन प्लस आईसीयू प्लस वेंटिलेटर पे भी जा सकते हो, and there is all leading to move to death or recovered. These are the possibilities. So what I am saying is you have to think of all the possibilities. मॉडल जो मतलब जो बेसिक मॉडल आपको डिजाइन करना है, उसके बाद तो आप कंप्यूटर की हेल्प से इसको एस वेल, बट इनिशियल मॉडल्स यू हैव टू गिव टू द सिस्टम कि दिस इज माय मॉडल. सो दैट्स व्हाई अगेन आई एम रिपीटिंग, जब भी हम मॉडल क्रिएट करते हैं उसके बाद वी डिस्कस विद द एक्सपर्ट्स कि ये मैंने पॉसिबिलिटी बनाई है, क्या मेरे से कोई पॉसिबिलिटी छूट तो नहीं रही है. सो दैट्स व्हाई देयर इज ए रोल ऑफ क्लिनिशियन एज वेल, जो उस पर्टिकुलर डिजीज में काम कर रहा है. फॉर एग्जाम्पल इफ यू आर वर्किंग विद मेटाबॉलिक डिसऑर्डर, सो यू हैव टू टॉक विद एंडोक्राइनोलॉजिस्ट कि ये पॉसिबिलिटीज मैंने देखी हैं, मैं लिटरेचर में भी गया, या ये पॉसिबिलिटी बनी है, बट इसके अलावा मीन्स व्हाट इज नीडेड. So then you can run it, and I will tell you the simple calculation as well. So there is another model is decision tree, right? So you can see that decision tree. This is a disease X, no preventions, right? You have given the preventions like for vaccines. So when you are not getting vaccines, so there can be a no event. There can be event as well, right? If you are taking the vaccine as well, again there are two possibility. It can results in event, it can be results in no event, right? So you can calculate then query. If we talk about cost utility analysis, so 8.8 queries, there is a 9.6 queries, and these are the cost, right? So you can calculate ICER. ICER is the cost of A minus cost of B, right? So you can calculate it, become 2000. 5000 minus 3000 is 2000. Then effect of A minus effect of B, right? So 9.6 minus 8.8, 0.8. So INR 2500 per query gain. You will get it. Are you getting my point? This is a screenshot of the, I think, one book or somewhere else I have taken it. So EQ5D to inform economic evaluation of health technology. I am not going to talk about HTA, but limitation of CEA is cost effectiveness analysis. Limitation is different outcomes cannot be compared. You can't compare prothrombin time versus blood glucose, right? So different outcomes you can't be compare in the cost effectiveness analysis. You can't compare different classes of the medicines. If you are comparing rheumatoid arthritis with diabetes, you can't do it. You can't compare diphenhydramine with fexofenadine, right? So relationship with other research, it's a multidisciplinary field. Pharmacoeconomic is a type of outcome research, but of course, not all outcome research are pharmacoeconomic. As I told you at the starting of the session as well, means health economics is the umbrella, right? Outcome research is the umbrella. So under that, under health economics, there is a pharmacoeconomic is the branch of the health economics. हेल्थ इकोनॉमिक्स में तो बहुत सारी चीज़ें आ जाएंगी. जब हम फार्मा की बात करते हैं तो हम उसको बात करते हैं फार्माको इकोनॉमिक्स. फार्माको इकोनॉमिक इज द branch of the health economics, and these all fields are related to each other. And then we talk about decision analysis, as we have discussed, application of analytical method for systematically comparing different decision options. So decision tree, choices, and outcome of interest. That is the decision tree. So now you can see this is a screenshot of one book. So if you going for a decision tree analysis, you have to be specify the alternatives and draw the decision analysis structure. So in this case, you have to draw the decision analysis structure where you are creating the models. So infections, like there is a infections. So you want to compare antibiotic A with antibiotic B. So when you are giving antibiotic A to the patients who have infections, and one set of the patients who is antibiotic using antibiotic B, so there can be a two things. There can be a clinical success. There can be a clinical failure. Whether it is A or B, देर आर टू पॉसिबिलिटी. या तो वो क्लिनिकल सक्सेस हो जाएगी या क्लिनिकल फेलियर भी हो सकता है. देन अगेन देयर इज ए टू पॉसिबिलिटीज, क्लिनिकल सक्सेस फेलियर, नो एडवर्स इवेंट और एडवर्स इवेंट. Hello, am I audible? Can anyone confirm in the chat? Hello, can anyone confirm in the chat box? Am I audible? Okay, great. So, this is your decision tree analysis. So, you can see that there are various options. So, you have to specify possible cost, outcome, and probability. So, you have to perform the calculations at each terminal node. The probability of patient having the outcome, you can calculate it by multiplying the probability of each arm from the choice node to the terminal node. And cost multiplied by probability is calculated for the each node. So by doing these calculations you can do it, and computer is behind, means behind your model, computer is doing these calculations for you, right? So how to do it, you can see that maybe it's not much visible, but it's a very simple example to understand that how to do it. So with respect to antibiotic A, as I said, there is a success with no adverse event. So this is the cost and this is the probability. So you have multiply the cost with the probability for the each node, right? I hope you understand what is node. Node is these all the stages, right? These are the nodes. This is one node, this is the second node, third node, fourth node, right? So like that, you have to do the calculation. Success with adverse event, right? 600 plus 1000, $1,600. Probability is 0.09, and your cost multiplied by probability. So like that, you have to do for the antibiotic A and antibiotic B. So when you done this and you have done the total, you got 600, 700, and here you are getting 650, right? So when you are doing these for each node and with probability, you can see that antibiotic A, antibiotic B. Now you can see that these are 0.90, this is the probability 0.16, and then you are doing the summation of it. And then you will get to know that which one is cost effective, antibiotic A or antibiotic B, when you are giving to the particular infected patients. So when we talk about these all things, we talk about sensitivity analysis as well, where high and low ranges we are checking the outcomes. Example, the probability of having an adverse event when taking antibiotic A was 10%. So you have to see with the range whether your model is giving the result accurately or not. Total cost ranges, you can change the cost for entire range. The cost of antibiotic A should be higher than the cost of antibiotic B. It should not be changed, right? So sensitivity analysis means whatever the model you have created, whatever the analysis you have done, if you are changing some parameters, so your outcome should not be hampered much. Means it's not like that earlier you are saying cost of antibiotic A is higher than cost of antibiotic B, but now you are making the conclusions a little bit different. You are saying no, this one is now more cost effective as compared to another by changing some parameters. So that means results are your insensitive. So your results should be sensitive, right? So threshold analysis, decision analysis is being used more commonly in the pharmacoeconomic analysis. And to do such kind of analysis, we have a softwares like Treease is the most popular. There is a Decision Pro is also there. Some researchers are doing by the Excel as well. So you can also create models by using the MS Excels. You can run the simulations as well, right? Limitations is the complexity of model building increases for the chronic conditions in which treatment outcomes are measured over long period of time. So if more complex diseases and increase for chronic conditions, treatment outcomes you are measuring for a longer period of time, so that is one of the limitations. And Markov modeling serve to break up the analysis into the shorter time frames, that will be called cycles. So you can do the analysis in the shorter frame as well to better represent the nature of disease or conditions. So as I said, if any one of you want to do these pharmacoeconomic studies, so what steps you have to do? So first step is define the problem. First thing is, for any kind of project, every one of you knows that first thing is you have to be define the problem. So just give me, we can take 5 minute break, then we will start steps in pharmacoeconomic study. This is the last part we will do, and after that we will you all have a uh, MCQ exam. I will share the link in the chat box. Complete the exam within 15 minutes and submit it. After that, we will close the Google form, and the participants who will complete the exam, we will issue the certificate to only those participants. If any questions, I am happy to take. Anyone has any question, anything with respect to health economics, because this is just a beginner, this session is for the beginners who are very new to the pharmacoeconomics. So I don't want to get into much more details in the model, because for pharmacoeconomic modeling we will do separate sessions. But first you have to understand the basic, then we will do much more detailed sessions on the pharmacoeconomics modeling and hands-on session as well, by doing excels or trees, right? But for this, you should have first basic understanding, then only you can understand that modeling or how to do that, right? Meantime, if anyone has any questions, anyone? No questions? Anyone has any questions, they can ask. Let me see the chat box. Okay. Okay, so I think we can move ahead with the steps in pharmacoeconomic studies. What are the steps you have to take if any one of you want to start pharmacoeconomic studies, right? So what are the steps? First step is, as as I said, for every research you have to define the problem, whether it is meta-analysis, whatever. You first step is, you have to be define the problems, right? So you define the problems and select the objective, why you want to do such kind of analysis. Then second step is, identify the study perspective. You have to identify the study perspective. So study perspective, as I said, there are various stakeholders in the pharmacoeconomics. So depending upon the study perspectives, your analysis will be changed. So it you have to identify whether you are doing it study perspective of the patients, institutional, or society. That is the step 2. Then step 3, identify the alternative intervention and outcome. So identify all the relevant interventions, including non-drug interventions, outcome, treatment model. So you have to identify that. So identify the alternative interventions and the outcome, right? Step 4, selection of appropriate pharmacoeconomic method. So already we have discussed when you will go with the cost minimizations, when you can go with the cost benefit, when you can go with the cost utility. So cost minimization would not be appropriate if outcomes not equal, right? Cost benefit, outcome measures in monetary, like dollar, rupees, whatever. Cost effectiveness, outcome measured in the natural units. Cost utility, outcome measured in the quality. So depending upon your research questions, you have to select appropriate pharmacoeconomic method. Got it? Then step 5, select primary data source and decision. So as I said, sir, what data is required to do the pharmacoeconomic studies? Now, can anyone answer it in the chat box? My question is, what kind of data is required to do the pharmacoeconomic studies? Particularly if we talk about cost effectiveness, cost utility, or cost benefit. Can anyone answer in the chat box? My question is, what kind of data, किस तरह का डाटा चाहिए आपको? ये तो हमने बात की थी, आपको एफिकेसी का डाटा चाहिए, या निकी गर्ग इज सेइंग राइट, कॉस्ट चाहिए और आउटकम। आउटकम में किस चीज का? एफिकेसी, सेफ्टी का, राइट? देन यू कैन डू द दिस वन। अब एफिकेसी, सेफ्टी का डाटा या कॉस्ट का डाटा, अब आपके पास डिफरेंट डिफरेंट सोर्सेज हैं, राइट? सो यू हैव टू डिफाइन, यू हैव टू सिलेक्ट प्राइमरी डाटा सोर्स। क्या आप हॉस्पिटल में जाके डाटा कलेक्ट करना चाहते हो विद रिस्पेक्ट टू कॉस्ट, और हॉस्पिटल में जाके क्या आप एफिकेसी का भी करोगे कलेक्ट, या सिर्फ कॉस्ट का करोगे? क्या आप एफिकेसी, सेफ्टी का क्लिनिकल ट्रायल से लोगे और कॉस्ट का डाटा हॉस्पिटल जाके ले लोगे? दैट इज ऑल्सो अनदर वे, राइट? क्या आप डाटा डाटाबेसेस से लोगे, लिटरेचर से लोगे, लेबोरेटरी रिकॉर्ड से लोगे, राइट? तो यू हैव टू डिफाइन बिफोर स्टार्टिंग द वर्क कि आपका विच वन इज द प्राइमरी डाटा सोर्स, एंड यू हैव टू टेक द डिसीजन, क्योंकि विदाउट डाटा यू कैन डू दीज फार्माकोइकोनॉमिक्स, राइट? देन नेक्स्ट इज सेलेक्ट एनालिटिकल टेक्निक. So you have to be select what kind of modeling you are going to use and why. You should have the reason. ऐसे नहीं कि आपने कोई भी पिक कर ली और आप बोले नहीं अब मेरे को ये अच्छी लगी तो मैंने कर ली, ऐसे नहीं, right? Then you have to establish the probability of outcome events. Probability of outcome events, what kind of data, from where you are going to calculate, how you are going to calculate it. So calculate it from the hospital record, efficacy rate, incidence of adverse reaction, prospective studies if needed, that also you have to be defined. And decision tree, again it depends upon what kind of research question you have. Then sensitivity analysis we are doing to determine effect of varying uncertain variables over a range of the result or assumptions, and we perform incremental cost analysis, and then we are checking the effect on the overall estimate. Then you can present the results, right? Critical variables, study limitations, all these things you can present the results, and these are the commonly used software packages, trees. So next session I will try to explain you how to use trees for the pharmacoeconomic modeling, but before that we will do one session on the pharmacoeconomic modeling, right? But before pharmacoeconomic modeling, go through all these basic, then only you can do, go through the transition probability, right? So these are the software. This is a freely available tool. If you go to the WHO website, that is the WHO choice tool, choosing interventions that are cost effective. Go through that as well. Then cost effectiveness model we have already discussed. Then this is my favorite part when we talk about any kind of analysis. I always talk about R package. So R, if you remember when we have done the session on SLR meta, that time also I request every one of you to install R in your laptop and use it for various types of analysis. These are the common steps which you have to follow to install the R in your laptop or computer system. R with R Studio, site where R Studio is available, right? It open like this, and then these are the Same steps which you have to do. You have to create the project in the R, select directory, choose new project, enter directory name, locations, right? And these are the commands for the health economic simulation modeling. Go through that, install packages, HESIM, library, then read CSV, and then you can do these analysis pharmacoeconomic modeling by using the R package. But again, it may be too much for you if you are beginner for this. So I am not going in detail, but I am just giving you the glimpse. We will do the separate session on this, so don't worry about that, right? But if you want to learn, you can go through that, right? So whenever session will conducted, you will do simultaneously on your laptop or on your system as well. Otherwise it's very difficult. This is the cheers you might heard about, consolidated health economic evaluation reporting standard checklist. Read about this one as well. What are the checklist, right? So you will get it on Equator Network, right, where you will get reporting checklist or guidelines for different study designs, right? Cheers. Name is, I think, I hope you all of you can't forget. Cheers. Just whenever you talk about pharmacoeconomics, first you do cheers, and that are your reporting checklist. Need in India, we have already discussed why, particularly in India, pharmacoeconomic studies are required, right? Because we have a limited resources, you have to be optimized. Financial optimization is very much required, and how to treat patients with safe, effective, as well as cost-effective treatment, right? So I would say that overall you also get an idea. It's not a simple analysis. Many factors must be addressed, and careful planning is required, right? Expert opinion is required, and I told you whenever you are validating your model, you have to discuss with the expert so that nothing has been missed out, right? Otherwise, if you are not working, means you are not in the clinical practice, so so there is a chances you can miss out some probabilities or something. So you have to discuss, you have to take the opinion of the expert always, and proper application will allow pharmacy practitioner and health policy maker to make better and more informed decision, right? So now, this is an international society, I hope everyone of you knows about it. SPOR, right? SPOR is the International Society for Pharmacoeconomic and Outcome Research. Their SPOR has recently released specific guidelines for India as well. If you have gone through it in recent conference, so you can get much more update with respect to health economics and outcome research on the SPOR website. Many institute in India are running chapters. Our institute is also running SPOR India chapters, right? And this is the work which we have done so far with respect to pharmacoeconomic. This is the one work where we have done the cost effectiveness studies of clopidogrel in patients with acute coronary syndrome undergoing percutaneous intervention in India. This is our model. So all possibility we have considered, and we have included. We have taken the suggestions from the clinician as well, and then we have validated this model, and we have used this is the model structures. Post PCI, so patient can enter into the MI state, it can be entered in the stroke state, event rate, death, and it can be event free, it can be post MI, it can be death, it can be post stroke. So all possibilities you have to consider. So this is for the decision, short term decision tree, and this is the long term Markov model. So these are the results: one way sensitivity analysis result, Torrento diagrams, again means as I said, if you are very new, so maybe very difficult to understand, but as I said, we will do these hands-on workshop on these. So such kind of analysis or plot you will find, you will generate, and you can go for the publications. So this research is published in the Value in Health journal, as I have shown you earlier, dedicated journal for the pharmacoeconomic. This is another one which we have done cost effective. This is the first means we have done SLR, and we registered the protocols, and this is the cost minimization study we have done. This is another studies where we have done the cost of illness studies, and this is recently has been accepted in the journal, going to be online, where we have done factor associated with the treatment cost in patients with coronary artery disease in India, and we have done the comparison of linear regressions, gamma regression, and quantile regression methods. So these are the results and acknowledgement and thank you. Right now it's time for 5 minute break, and at 4 this is a 4 means 4 p.m. So we will start the exam at 4:05 p.m. 4:05 पे मैं आपको चैट बॉक्स में लिंक शेयर करूंगा, राइट, इसका गूगल फॉर्म का। उसमें एमसीक्यू हैं, 20 एमसीक्यू हैं, 15 मिनट के का आपके पास टाइम रहेगा। 4:05 पे स्टार्ट होगा, तो आपका 4:20 पे गूगल फॉर्म बंद हो जाएगा। उससे पहले आपको सबमिट कर देना है। आर यू गेटिंग माय पॉइंट? ठीक है। मीन टाइम इफ यू हैव एनी क्वेश्चंस यू कैन पुट इन द चैट बॉक्स। अगेन आई एम रिपीटिंग, 4:05 पे मैं आपको चैट बॉक्स में लिंक भेजूंगा गूगल फॉर्म का, जिसमें एमसीक्यू है, 20 एमसीक्यू हैं, आपके पास 15 मिनट का टाइम रहेगा, राइट। तो आपका 4:20 पे वो बंद हो जाएगा। क्वेश्चन है जो भी हमने डिस्कस किया, बेसिक क्वेश्चंस हैं विद रिस्पेक्ट टू फार्माको इकोनॉमिक्स, so there is no need to worry, right? So 4:05 पे हम स्टार्ट करते हैं। मीन टाइम किसी का कोई क्वेश्चन हो तो हम ले सकते हैं। And I hope means by today's sessions you will get an idea about HEOR, right? There are so many materials which is available for the HEOR as well. Mm, चार्ट्स वो आप देख लेना, राइट। वो तो उससे ज़्यादा टाइम नहीं लगेगा वैसे, डायरेक्ट क्वेश्चन है। There should not be very, let me see. Anyone, have any questions can put in the chat box. गूगल फॉर्म का लिंक कॉपी कर लिया मैंने, मैं इसमें डाल रहा हूँ चैट बॉक्स में। 4 हुए हैं अभी, 4:05 में मैं डाल रहा हूँ। आई होप मीन्स चीटिंग करने की तो ज़रूरत नहीं होनी चाहिए, क्योंकि जो भी लोग अगर ज्वाइन किए हैं वो सीखने के पर्पज़ से ही ज्वाइन किए हैं, राइट? So it's 4:05. So I have shared in the chat box. Google form link is put in the chat box. Kindly check the chat box, open this form, and attempt your MCQs. And you have a 15 minutes. Your time started now. I hope link is working. I just clicked on this link. It's opening. Google form is opening. Google form link is shared in the chat box. So do that. So do the questions in the chat box. Means I hope Google form is opening for everyone. So let me see how many of you have. Take your time to read the questions. Total marks is 20. 20 questions are there, right? I hope Google form is working. So you have already 3 minutes has been completed. So we will discuss these questions as well, right? You can see on your. You can see questions on your screen as well. Anyone has any questions, they can put in the chat box as well. Any questions, anything? So 5 minute over, last 10 minutes. Hurry up. Last 10 minutes. Last 10 minutes. You have last. I think what's the time? 4:11. Last 9 minutes. I received two responses so far. Good. Three responses so far. Okay, good. I think you are getting answer as well, right? Now four responses. Good. Four responses I have received so far. Last 9 minutes. So you can see that these are the questions we will discuss quickly. I hope these questions are not very hard, right? These are very simple questions with respect to basic beginner level. Now I received six responses. Very good. You all are very quick, even though you have last 8 minutes. I will wait for 8 minutes more, and then after that I will close it. Yeah, many would maybe not interested for the test, right? But you have to be appear for test. Tests are required. Now seven responses received so far. Seven responses so far, and we have 7 minutes left. Last 7 minutes. Last 7 minutes. Seven responses received. Okay. Total point distribution is good, right? You have 18 to 20. Yeah, 19 score as well. So it's a good score, right? 18 to 20, it's very good score. So I think whatever the participant has joined, they got the things and they answer it well. It's nice. So now last 7 minutes we have 7 minutes. Last 6 minutes. Now we have a last 6 minutes. Anyone who is still left, we have 6 minutes more to get your responses. Six, yeah, 6 minutes more to get your responses. It's 4:40. Meantime, if anyone has any questions, they can put in the chat box, or they can also suggest uh, means what you need next for this health economics and outcome research. What kind of topics you want to cover, that also you can put in the chat box. So now 8 responses. Now last 5 minutes we have. It's good. We have to be create less certificates. That's good. Anyone who has any questions? Now 9 responses. We have 5 minutes more. Nikki, okay, Bholenath is saying very informative session, sir. Thank you so much. Thank you, Bholenath. Nikki saying quiz was fabulous and refreshing. Thanks, Nikki. Though I revised all I have studied in this session of basic of HUR. So thank you so much, sir, for this mindful sessions. Thank you, Nikki Garg, for joining, for your time. Thank you, FB Club Zero. Now we have 4 minutes more. 10 responses received so far. Yeah, that's why I thought of to keep MCQs, such kind of exercises at the end of the sessions. Otherwise, it will be very much headache to all of you for continuous 2 hours or 3 hours. So it's too much. Okay, FB Club is saying I scored 19 by 20. Great. FB Club, very nice. I think you got all the things. So 10 responses received, last 4 minutes. Anyone left? Anyone who's still doing? Last 4 minutes. I also scored 20 by 20. You're a great. Very nice. So next means, as I said, next sessions you want on which kind of topics you can think of and put in later on also in the chat box. That I am thinking of to do the sessions on pharmacoeconomic modeling, or so that you can get hands-on experience as well, or before pharmacoeconomic modeling little bit means do again these practical sessions by doing the cost effectiveness, means practical data, whatever data I have. So all these analysis I can show you how to do it with demo, right? Okay, 12 responses received so far. So I think last 3 minutes we have. Yeah, last 3 minutes. Last 3 minutes. Anyone have any questions can also put in the chat box for QA question answer round. Anything, anyone has any question in your mind, you can put in the chat box. I will try to answer it. Any queries, anything related to HEOR? Now we have last 2 minutes, 13 responses. Okay, great. And I think all of you got the score between 18 to 20. That's great. Yeah, 18 to 20. If you are getting lower score also, that also not a problem, right? There is no issue with that. Yeah, Nikki is saying in next sessions can be. So you are asking about software, right? Yeah, yes, we can. Next sessions can we cover the software? Yes. Yes, that I am planning also to cover the softwares. Charvi Kalal is saying thank you, sir, for great session. Thank you, Charvi Kalal, for joining. So we have last minutes. Last minute. So there is a 13 responses, right? So I think time is over. Anyone who is still doing 14 responses. So I'm going to download these responses and we will generate the certificate according to that, and will mail you the certificates, right? So last thing is, I'm just going to close this. Anyone who is left can put in the chat box who is still doing and is online. No one? Or I will wait for few seconds more. Okay, I will wait few seconds, not more than that. 14 responses are there. Anyone who is still doing? Just I am waiting for last few seconds. Okay, I'm going to close it. Okay, these responses I have downloaded. 14 responses, right? So we are just going to discuss little bit, not much more. I will not take much more time. Your questions quickly. I think every one of you got the score between 18 to 20. So sir, quickly I can discuss. Following cost is not possible to measure in the monetary terms. That is clear answer. Intangible, right? ICR can be calculated by, it's a cost A minus cost B, right? And effectiveness is in the denominator, so you always remember that. Quali is measure of year in the perfect health loss, perfect health gain. So answer is perfect health gained, right? Markov model is used for chronic disease, acute diseases with future impact. I think this question may be, someone of you maybe mark wrong, but answer is A and B. Why A and B? Because this is acute disease with future impact. So if the disease, whether a disease is acute but with future impact, we will go with the Markov model. But if here is written acute disease with no future impact, then we have to pick the first one, chronic disease, right? Because if I talk about acute diseases with no future impact, then I will go with which model? Can anyone write in the chat box? Then which models I have to go with? If I am writing here acute disease with no future impact, the answer, then in that case answer will be the chronic disease. But which model is suitable for acute diseases with no future impact? Can anyone write in the chat box? Yeah, Charvi Kalal is saying, I would like the next session to be on career opportunity in the HUR. Okay, and skill needed to enter the field. Okay, sure, that also we will do one session on that, Charvi. Then cost, okay, yeah, decision tree, Nikki is say, right? Then cost minimization study would not be appropriate if outcomes are not equal, right? Many time we have discussed. And cheers is consolidated health economics evaluation reporting standard checklist, right? Not the recording, not this one. First one, essential medicine are those medicines that satisfy the healthcare need of the majority of the populations. First NLEM of India was released in, answer is 1992 or 1996. Anyone? Then 1996, right? Then Delhi is YLL multiply YLD, year of life multiply utility value. Delhi is YLL, right? Which of the following is not a direct medical cost? Direct medical cost is not a travel expenses, right? Which pharmacoeconomic method uses monetary units for both cost and outcomes? That is the cost benefit analysis. Quali are most commonly used as a outcome in cost utility analysis. If a new intervention has a higher cost and higher effectiveness compared with standard treatment, it is, what answer you have picked up? Dominant, dominated, or require ICE or rejected? Answer in the chat box. Anyone is there or left? Okay, require ICR. If new treatment has higher cost, yes, require ICR, right? The willingness to pay threshold is used to interrupt cost effectiveness accessibility, right? A decision tree model is most suitable for Short-term clinical decision with defined outcomes. The most appropriate model for chronic disease like diabetes, cancer is often Markov models, right? A treatment is dominated when it is, what is the answer? Treatment is dominated when it is more expensive or less effective, or less expensive or more effective, or equal cost and equal effect. Yes. Which of the following is the example of PRO? PRO is patient reported pain. It's very simple question, right? Which of the following is a source of RWD? EHR. EHR is electronic health records. PSA. PSA we have not discussed, right? Okay. PSA is performed to assess. In next sessions we will discuss. It's a uncertainty in model parameters. Second one is the right answer for that. PSA. PSAs or all these when we will do hands-on sessions, that time we will discuss in details. Okay, then anyone want to add or say something? I think you can't say, you can only write. So if anything, any questions, anything, I have noted down what kind of sessions you want further. One is on career sessions or what skill is required, that we can do of on means 40-50 minutes, not more than that is enough. And another one is saying about the software. Yes, software part we will do in detail, that of course we will do that. Any other thing? Okay. Any other thing? Let me see the chat box. In the next sessions, can we cover the software? Yes. Decision tree.